Okay.
Thank you, Bethany, and thank you all for zooming in this morning. Let's proceed with our agenda. First item is approval of the May 6th minutes.
Make a motion to approve them.
All those in favor?
Second.
To thank Alicia as well for such a thorough job. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. And any corrections, questions? No. So we will approve as they are. Next item, Health Department, Jen. You could give us an update on our COVID presence, testing, vaccinations.
And everything else I do. So
No,
testing's
just
over.
those three. Thank you.
Testing's over. It finished on Tuesday. So we finished at 4,536 tests. That's just the Waveney testing of the last 7 months. Doses administered to date, we've administered 12,424. We have another mini clinic today, around 60 people. That just my staff is going to do because it's small. We did around 67 last week. Our last two main clinics are going to be Wednesday, June 9th and Thursday, June 10th, which are second dose Pfizer clinics. And then we give back Lapham to Aggie. But the health department's going to continue to vaccinate all summer long when things pop up, through at the health department and throughout homebound. We're still doing a lot of vaccinations and still doing restaurants and salons and anyone that changes their mind, because with the more and more employers now require vaccinations, help getting these few that didn't get vaccinated. Our numbers as of 5/26, so DPH is always a week behind. The new numbers will come out this afternoon. But as of 5/26, the ages 15 to 44, we were at 90% with at least one dose. That's the second highest in the state and the highest in Fairfield County. 45 to 64, we're at 84%. 65 and over, we're at 99%. Total population with one dose is 72%, which is also the highest in Fairfield County. And fully vaccinated, we're at 58%. So again, that was, a week ago data, so it will change a little today. And then we're still continuing to do these one-offs here and there in the smaller clinics. No, there's only one case this week, one case last week. So we're pretty much winding down with that, which is great. Non-COVID life, real life, we are beyond drowning in septic and pools and everything else. So 19 out of the 21 pools have paid and been inspected. The two lagging pools or condo pools just decided they're going to be opening. So we'll be collecting their payment, inspecting them. 24 out of the 39 salons have paid their fees. And Chris is working on doing their inspections. The truck inspections, the garbage and septic trucks, they're Wednesday, June 16th and Wednesday, June 23rd. I'll be doing those at the transfer station with Donnie like I do every year. The septic permits were up 45% from the previous fiscal year. Plan review, we're up 55%. Soil testing, we're up 77%. Building permits were up 30% and generator permits were up over 200%. So everything on the other side of life is really, going crazy with all the real estate transactions and people wanting to do more improvements to their houses. The ELC grant I've submitted for budget period 2 for the next fiscal year. It was due by June 17th. There's a carryover $6,920 from this current year because they didn't give it to us until November, and it goes back to the previous May. So the total award would be $51,215. That funds my public health nurse, who I will have through November 2022 funded through this grant. The Fep Grant, we just received the last payment of the $4,000. So that's done for this fiscal year too. And part of the Fep Grant, we had to participate in a full-scale exercise of our largest populous city in Region 1, which I did last Friday and Saturday. So that was part of the deliverables. That was also completed. The Commissioner of Health is talking to directors of health about proposed legislation that they're not really sure if it's going to be this year, probably more like a year from now, of more home health services, particularly since the health departments have done so much with the public health nurses of doing the homebound vaccinations. They're looking to expand to do more like maternal health and it's going to be a universal program. So it's not just income based. It will be for anybody who wants it. And then, but they're not really sure how that's going to play out in the legislature. There is some Recovery Act funding for that. So they'll team it with a public health nurse and then like a community health worker through like the FQHC. So we'll see how that plays out in the coming months, but that is also another thing they'll be adding to local health. And that's it.
On what's a generator permit? I didn't know there was anything like that.
If you're on septic or well, and you want to install a generator and propane tank, you have to meet separation distances to the septic, to the well, the trenching of the electrical. And then if it's above ground, it also has to get P&Z approval because then it's considered a structure. There's a whole process for it.
On town water, you don't have that problem.
Town water or town sewer, it's not our problem. Just like a typical building permit. But, you know, 80% of the town is not on sewer or water, so.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Russ, do you want to just mention, for the sake of the commission, the ongoing testing at Waveney?
Yes, I mean, we continue to test our non-vaccinated employees weekly. We are seeing a rise in the number of people coming through short-term rehab that have not been vaccinated, either because of medical reasons or for religious reasons. So that is concerning. We have not seen any breakthrough cases at all. And we have been COVID-free for I guess a really long time, since the first wave. So we're very happy. We're very happy with the efforts of the town and glad to support the town. And as I'd mentioned to EOC, we'll still be here, of course. And if there's anything that this commission or others need related as we start stepping down programs, please continue to feel free to reach out to us. I also want to thank Jen for her leadership this past year and her tireless efforts and everything. It was great being on her team, and thanks to Bethany and Harrison and everyone else that have pitched in tirelessly and donated their times. It's been a great community effort, and we should be very proud to live in such a special town and have such dedicated and compassionate people working for it. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. Just FYI, in terms of the medical exemptions, number of people who've had transplants or have ongoing therapy for whatever reason, immunotherapy, are those people are getting vaccinated at various sites with a reduced, however, a palpable rise in antibodies. So if those who are on immunotherapy get, after their first dose, supposedly they're having about a 17% positive response with antibody development, and after the second vaccine, 54%, and that population is also going ahead, and they're the ones that are getting like the third booster. The other thing, which is somewhat of a concern, and I'm sorry that it's unanswered right now, is with the teenagers and those in their 20s having a somewhat higher incidence of carditis and pericarditis following the vaccine. Not fully explained yet, even though you do get muscle aches and pains when you get the vaccine, and heart is muscle, and it's probably related to that. But the US and Israel, where they've done a lot of studies with this, are continuing despite that low incidence, but definite of the carditis, pericarditis, they're continuing with the vaccines. I think it's the lesser of two evils. So anyway, FYI,
I have a question, Harrison. I
yes,
am actually amazed on a positive point that Jen reports the 15 to 24s are 90%. I can't, what did we do to make it happen?
No, well, Jim, anyone that's gone through the year we've gone through with the schools, what people don't understand is these kids are tired of quarantining, and that was a huge part of it. They don't want to miss school. They don't want to miss sports. That group actually was the easiest to get vaccinated. It's the 45 to 64 who don't really particularly have the younger kids, don't really understand how much this has disrupted life in the past year. I mean, it's been a lot with the schools. I mean, up all night, me and Dr. Lutzy and the school nurses and, figuring out who sat next to who and who did this. I mean, they missed a lot and they don't want to miss out anymore. And when you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to quarantine. That's the biggest driver of it.
That's astounding. And will we get the other 10% eventually, or are those religious and other exemptions?
I'm sure they'll all come around, as it continues to go around. A lot of people sometimes like to sit and wait, but I'm not worried about that group. It's like I said, the 45 to 64-year-olds, we're only at like 84% or so. And that's the group that should be at 100%. They've been eligible for a long time now. So it's quite amazing what we've been able to do with the 12 and up.
Astounding. Well, it's terrific. Okay, thanks.
Well, our schools have put out a daily report card on the number of cases and number of people in quarantine by school, and it's been 0 for the last at least week or two, and so that's terrific. And
yes, vaccines work, Tom.
it's remarkable how well these vaccines work. We're lucky.
definitely. That 40 to 60-year-old age group, and even though they're at home, you can't get them off the golf course or whatever to get the vaccination. Bethany, Human
Yes.
Service.
Human Services. All right. So as Jen said, the major clinics next Wednesday and Thursday will finish up, Human Services being an aspect of that. And it's been a good run, and we've enjoyed doing it. And it was great to have Health and Human Service come together, and it's just all positive. So the blood pressure clinics at Lapham and Schoolhouse are being well received. I'm getting a lot more clients, people wanting their blood pressure taken than in the past, pre-COVID. So that's really good. Get About rides are picking up each week. Now that the seniors are feeling slowly but surely, there's a psychosocial aspect, obviously, to COVID and the restrictions being lifted. So we're seeing more Get About rides. And the food pantry, we continue servicing about approximately 35 households every 2 weeks. We continue with the generous contributions that are coming in. United Way has given $4,000. The Historical Society, I just spoke with Nancy Geary. They are giving $1,000. It's just incredible that the capacity of this town for the food pantry. It's just a great way to give right to something, and knowing that the town, residents in the town receive 100% of the donations through the food pantry. Farmers Market Voucher Program. If you remember last summer, fall, we did 2 rounds of vouchers to the food pantry clients. It was a success. We gave out vouchers, and about $7,500 worth of vouchers were used at the farmers market for the vendors. So it's a win-win situation. The clients at the food pantry are receiving great nutrition, as well as the vendors are receiving the income. So love that, and working well with that group again this year. Just wanted to point out that every month I attend meetings with the SWACA advisory. I'm on the advisory council, and that's the Southwestern Connecticut Agency on Aging. And also that's every month. And then every 2 weeks is the area directors meeting. So Fairfield County, all the directors from Greenwich on up, we meet on Zoom, and we will continue to do so. It's a great time to get feedback on what other communities and human services are experiencing, as well as Norwalk has a community providers every Friday morning. So I am getting the pulse of this area, not just New Canaan. The outcome for me is New Canaan's doing a great job of offering services and resources for those that need the assistance, and we are definitely pinpointing what's needed and helping people with that. Similar trends are being seen in the area regarding uptick in referrals, which Jackie and Marcy will explain, that what's happening in their field of adult and families. And it's not necessarily financial that we're seeing all the time. It's a lot with services regarding home care, aging parents, and mental health resources. So we're seeing this in the community as well as in the county. And that's good that, some of the stigmas, people are reaching out now that COVID has lifted, and looking for resources, which is great. We are starting, the employee health fair details are beginning to formalize. We will have an employee health fair Wednesday, October 13th from 11 to 1 p.m. And it's in conjunction with the employee flu clinic. Other than that, everything is even keel. There's been a decrease in the number of phone calls coming in, but an increase in the referrals, as I said, and then Jackie and Marcy will go into that. So any questions, let me know.
Yeah, Bethany, thank you for that report. Last month, we discussed two things. Well, we discussed a lot of things, but two things in particular. One was the rate of homelessness in the area and renters being disenfranchised or being pushed out because their homes were being sold. Have we seen any increase or change in that dynamic at all?
No, we have not had anybody come in homeless. And for the process for that, if someone does, the eviction, we do get the eviction, Human Services is in charge of evictions, having to be present with a police and a sheriff when that happens. And we have not had any. We have not had any. Or Human Services has been entered.
The second was on domestic violence, and I know we've been working on that not only through our telehealth but all of our programmatics, and we saw a fatality this past month. Has there been any increase in that at all that we should know about or think about additional programming?
Jackie has those numbers.
Right.
Oh, go ahead.
Right. No, you're right, Russ. That was pretty shocking. And all the information that we know on that has been out in the media. Our chief has, covered that information. Obviously, that's probably still an investigation. But funny enough, the number had gone up this month. We have had, including that 140 cases, not all husband on wife, some have been adult children living in the home due to COVID. Some actually, 2 of those were adult children living in the home and inflicting that on either parents or someone else in the home. And that's something we always struggle with. We see these influx of numbers go up and down all the time. At year's end, the numbers might be down for this year. I think they have been trending down, but for this month, it's obviously that's, is a big event for our town. Our Canaan Abuse Prevention Partnership had talked to the clergy, and that was discussed, that case, and we've done that every year with clergy, and actually this year was kind of the most successful. It was the director of Domestic Violence Crisis Center, and Lauren Patterson talking about the behavioral health initiatives with clergy, and that was at the First Presbyterian back in May. So that was, something great, but unfortunately, these things are going to happen. Right after that, there was one in Norwalk that was actually a murder-suicide. I'm sure people saw that in the news. So unfortunately, these things are going to happen. And sometimes we'll know what happened and sometimes we won't. So I don't really have any more information on that. And with the housing, any of those families that had, no one's come to say they've got to be out on a certain date. So that's hopefully good news. I mean, I don't, maybe there's people are figuring things out. And then we did have a walk-in client that is moved here, living with a family member, obviously looking for housing, and there aren't any viable options. So hopefully they can still stay with that family member ongoing, because they do have a small child living with them as well. So that's just a follow-up on that, but we'll keep you posted as we meet.
Yeah, Jackie, I didn't want to,
I'm
get
all
off the
set.
agenda at all, but I, for some people, being in the pandemic is extraordinarily stressful, but others getting back to normal, can be seen as being stressful, and going back to work and having to show up for work and not the hybrid work from home. So I know you guys are sensitive to that, and if there's anything you need from the commission, please do, please reach out to us. But those are things that we're seeing, in ordinary life right now. For some people, getting back to normal is also stressful.
Yeah, I think this is
Absolutely.
why we've had an uptick in the referrals, people calling in. But yeah, we'll Jackie continue and Marcy with that. Anyway, thank you, Russ.
Bethany, it's great to, for you to give us this outside looking in to see how the town is performing, and it sounds very positive. It's great.
Yeah, it is. Go ahead.
Adult and Senior Services, Marcy?
Morning. We are continuing to receive calls from spouses and children of aging parents looking for suggestions and referrals for things like home health care, Meals on Wheels, and post-hospital care and rehab stays and things like that. There has been an uptick, as Bethany said, with some referrals from EMS and police. We are thrilled with that, though. We are glad that they are aware that we are good support for them, and we have been following through with all those phone calls. Renters rebate is started June 1st, so I've already done a couple applications, and that will continue on through September. And Bethany and I are going to be meeting with Aggie over at the Lapham Center. We're going to be creating some programs with her to present over the summer, things that have to do with health issues, as well as perhaps some support groups for like macular degeneration and Parkinson's. So we're looking forward to that. Get a little more airtime with the seniors at the Lapham Center. And that is it for now.
Marcy, can you just repeat what's continuing through September? So there's a little feedback.
I'm sorry, I can mumble too, and I get nervous. It's our renters rebate program.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. Jackie, you want to add anything more regards youth?
Yeah, so,
family?
continuing to be very busy with therapy referrals. Just in the last week and a half, I've had referrals for 3 children, 2 adults. One was an IOP, so they were leaving a treatment, needing to go into an IOP. And interestingly enough, people like want to meet in person, and like for Silver Hill and St. Vincent's Hospital, for instance, both IOPs are not meeting in person, and I think it's regarding they do like urine tests, samples. And I think due to COVID, that is something that I guess that's why those programs aren't, that's what I heard from one person. I'm probably not explaining it correctly, but hopefully that'll get revisited, because it's really tough for people to, come out of a program and then they want to meet in person with this support group. And, I find that it's harder, online. I know kids do it all the time and they're probably better at it, but, they really need these meetings to meet in person. So hopefully that can move forward. They were able to find one for that in person, but it wasn't at a hospital. The other thing is a lot of grief counseling, and some of the instances were not due to COVID per se, but some were stuck in other areas where family were now are coming back and needing to get into grief counseling. And as we know, the Center for Hope in Darien is amazing. They have programs for kids 6 and up with support groups happening all the time. I think the teen group decided they were a 2-week meeting. They wanted to meet every week. So it's really just getting those families to, reach out. So we did with a student where we had, trouble with the moms sort of signing up. The child is old enough, so we've connected directly with the child's guidance counselor, getting the kid hooked up themselves if the parent is hesitant, to make those calls, which, happens all the time. And it is one frustrating part of the work is think this will solve everyone's problems, but sometimes they just don't get around, mental health reasons could be, why they're not making those calls. But yeah, so that is definitely those, that's constantly being offered to people. And what I keep hearing is, therapists are busy. Some feel like they'll open up when school is done in a couple of weeks because they just don't have those afternoon, evening appointments available for kids in need. But although recently we mentioned that there was a new housing management company for Millport Housing, which has 2 units. There's a lower and an upper. It's now the same management company as Canaan Parish that's being rebuilt. So we've gotten a lot of referrals from that because there's the new manager, and so they've gotten notices on their door of any back rent that they owe, and then with referrals to where they could call maybe for assistance. So it's good. We've gotten new families that way. I think we'll continue to get new families. I've just picked up 3 new families, all single moms. So that would be 7 people. It's 4 kids total and 3 moms. So they'll be raising those food pantry numbers shortly, I'm sure. And we've, had to put out a lot of rental assistance to help them. Obviously, we can't bring their rent up to date, but, we were able to do what we could. And it's been great. And then obviously we continue with camp and pool assistance. We have some families that can't even, afford to pay the reduced rate at the pool. We try not to do that if we don't have to. We really want families to kind of save up to know that this is something they'll need, but things come up all the time. And I wanted to just report back on the event I went to that we partnered with New Canaan Cares. It was the Woodway with Emily Torchiana, who's a suicide attempt survivor and a sexual assault survivor, and has struggled with depression. And she came out from California. We only had about a dozen people in person, but I think 50 to 60 tuned in. Amazing. I mean, I don't want to, say other presentations weren't great. They have been, but best presentation I've ever seen in the 15 years that I've worked here. She's exactly what we need to speak to our youth. She's only in her mid-20s herself, but she really makes getting help and all of that for kids. The message is it's okay to talk to your parents. It's, she says she wished she told them sooner, all of her struggles. So actually the good news is she's agreed to do a podcast for us. So she will be featured in, I believe it's going to be our June podcast, talking with a social worker at Silver Hill, both, sort of giving information. So nice thing is we'll be able to share that info, so I really think her message is, I know schools around this town want to bring her back. So I will make sure I hear those dates and get that to you if you can tune in. I mean, she is worth seeing, or getting your middle school to high school, kids, grandkids. She's definitely the message we need to hear. I think that's probably, I see there's something in the chat. Is it something for me? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Not for me, just one dropping off. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer anything.
Thank you, Jackie. One question about, so are we, all these families that need financial assistance for camp for their kids, is it being provided or no?
Yes, we have 3 accounts. I mean, obviously we can't pay for every, I mean, they would like every session or every session discounted, and I probably mentioned many times before, the Y does their own financial assistance. So it's nice because they can just go direct to them and see what the families, can pay and figure it out through that. And then through the recreation department, we ask for the assistance. We unfortunately can't discount every session or pay for every session. A lot of times what we'll do is we might pay for a session in full and then ask the discounted session to be what the family pays for, which might discount at 50%. And then actually the numbers numbers are up for camp, which I'm hearing across the board at the preschool level, at our town level. I mean, our town camp, I'm working on a family today. They don't have much space left. So hopefully we can work quickly to get these kids into these camps. But that's good news because last summer that was not the case. But yes, we do have 3 different accounts we can draw from, so that's great. And that money is, our town money will start over July 1, but then I Touch a Life through Canaan Community Foundation that has different time periods. And I know Salvation Army is another, and all of them could be used for recreation for kids. So that's nice that there aren't stipulations on those. So we can, utilize all 3 of those for that kind of stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Harrison,
Yes.
Harrison, I just
Yes.
want to thank the whole staff, Enza, Jackie, Marcy, for doing the 14 months of COVID. They were incredible. And now things are even revving up more in other areas because of the post-COVID. So I just wanted to thank my staff and know how appreciative I am of them. One more aspect of the town where the community really is receiving something that they need. So thank you.
Yeah, and all the work they've put into the
Thank you,
vaccination side
Bethany.
has been impressive. Thank you also. Old business, nothing much, right? Jim, we okay with all the mental health, et cetera? You're on mute.
Okay, we're in good shape.
Okay. Thank you. New business. American Disability Act Compliance Team. I'll pass it to Bethany and Alyssa.
All right, Alyssa, if you want to jump in, anytime. So Tiger Man is running, he's the head of Public Works, and he has formed a ADA compliance team, which the town needs to have. And they've received a $75,000 grant, if I understand this correctly, in regards to assessing the town and updating the facilities that the town owns and runs, so it is in compliance. So started the process. Ridgefield has done an unbelievable job. And so we are we have resources working with Tony, who used to work in human services. Tony now is the head of services, human services in Ridgefield. So we're working closely with him in terms of what works, what doesn't work. And we have hired, Tiger has hired a consultant that with this grant money to assess the situation and what needs to be done to get us upgraded and in compliance. So we had the first meeting last week, and we're going to have a couple more meetings every couple of weeks, and then we're going to go to once a month. So I think it's a great team and definitely something that's needed in this town. So we're on to the next public health need. So Alyssa, so Alyssa is the resident for representative for the town, but just so happens to be on this commission as well, which it's great. And I've asked Tiger that I think because of Health and Human Services, we should have each month on the agenda, sort of an update of what is happening with this compliance team and where we're at. I just think it should be put just updates for everyone to know. So Alyssa?
Yeah, I think you covered it really succinctly. And this week we have a bit of homework that I still need to go through again.
Yeah.
I briefly looked at it, but it sounds like the consultant that will be used is someone I'm quite familiar with, because they're like world renowned. So New Canaan is very lucky if that's where the route we head in, because they're just so thoughtful, and it's not just coming up to code, but it's also how do you foster a community of inclusivity, which I think is a mission of New Canaan, certainly Health and Human Services. So it's exciting. I mean, I'm such like a nerd, so I understand it's probably not exciting to anyone else.
I love it.
Like,
Great. Yeah, no, I was great. I guess Tiger, is supposed to do this, and he's right on it. And I just love it that Health and Human Service Commission were involved in it.
No, I think
And
it's
Alyssa,
great.
you're amongst family of nerds, okay? So don't.
I recognize that. Yeah. So yeah, I'll be eager to share with Bethany each month what we're doing, and then once we really dive into the work, that should be exciting.
What's the deliverable time?
The time. So I believe that we're looking to have the consultant ready to go by the end of summer to do the walkthrough. And then basically they will be looking at everything that the town sort of is responsible for, what needs to be changed, and create, I see it as more like a working document over the next, let's say 15 years, what needs to be done, or every time you touch a building, what you need to do to it. But then hopefully they will stay on as a consultant in terms of if a new building is going to be rehabbed or something, or if a new building is built, so that we still can have advice from the same people who have helped all along. So it'll be like streamlined.
Distant, yeah.
So as I understand it, the scope is just buildings owned by the town at this point.
At this point, that's what they're going to the walkthrough for. But if we have any specific needs, my understanding is that we can ask them, and not just in this consulting period, but going forward, say there's like a new build in town, in so many condos, for example. I think that was mentioned that
I mean,
we could
one
ask them.
recommendation I would have is, to kind of look at our
Oh, no, did you freeze?
P&Z building codes and just make sure that they are up
Oh, I
to date
froze.
as well for ADA compliance. I'm sure they are, but it's not a bad thing to at least have the consultant review.
And what
I-
I've been, oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
I just lost Wi-Fi. Would you mind sharing what you just said?
Yeah, I said it might not be a bad idea to also have the consultant review our existing building codes and structures to see if they have any recommendations on that. I'm sure they're up to date, but it's, while we have them, it's probably not a bad idea.
And what I also wanted to add, reading through this, and probably Alyssa is much more well-versed on this than I am. But the idea that buildings that have been grandfathered in through the years, they don't have to be ADA compliant. They do. I think it's Title II. They do have to be compliant. And this is why we need to come in. And it's not just about new buildings. It's about old buildings. It's about street crossings and making sure that the curb is flat, so that wheelchairs or people needing assistance or have walking assistant aids, they can. I guess it's not just the buildings, but it's just amazing. The more you read about this, it's an incredible time for ADA advocacy, and so I think the town is right on track. And as Alyssa said, it's like a 15-year plan. I mean, this can't be done overnight, but it's a process. And if we can get this report done, then we start chipping away at it.
Question, anything about Vine Cottage?
Well, that's for sale. So I don't know. That is a whole.
Okay, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, I mean, that will be looked at. It's a working entity here, for town hall right now. So all of that will be looked at.
I think Jen likes her office there, right, Jen?
Is she here?
Not my decision to make.
Yeah.
I'll gladly go back to Irwin Park.
That's a great place to be. So yeah, everything's going to be looked at, and once again, it's a process, and it's not going to happen overnight. But we will be getting on the road and starting the long haul.
Thank you. Our next meeting, so I just learned this morning that the town is shifting over, probably in piecemeal fashion, to either an in-person meetings or hybrid or whatever. I think for the time being, our next meeting scheduled for July 1st. So I think for the present, we'll keep it as a Zoom meeting. We'll see how things flow with COVID. The numbers, as Jen said, are great. One case this week, one case last week. If there's a change, we'll let you know. Traditionally, there's no meeting in August. And if things are going well, maybe we can resume. We'll listen to input to our Zoom, our in-person meetings in September. That said, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I got something I just want to mention, 3 things, if I may.
Yes.
First one is the Ram Council. Joyce Sixsmith had her 5th annual vigil fundraiser honoring all the junior students in the Ram Council. It was a very successful meeting. Zoom again. And next year, finally, she's got the New Canaan Country Club for the 6th annual fundraiser for the Ram Council. Number 2, the vigil that's going to take place in New Canaan on September 1. Proceeding well with that, and hope everyone will come to that it's going to be open as well as vigil. And then the last thing is Liberation on Wednesday or Tuesday from 7 to 8, celebrating their 50th anniversary. So just
Wow.
might come up to know 5th annual For Joyce, 5th annual for what am I trying to say? The vigil, and then the 50th for the liberation, just to keep you informed. Thanks.
Thank you, Lance. All right. Thank you again for attending, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye. I'll
Bye.
stop recording now.